You mentioned being biased, and I think that's a good segue into my next question. So I've found that diets, different diets like vegan or paleo or even carnivore or keto or whatever, that people are almost religious about it. They have this religious zeal and kind of think that there's only one way to do it. And there's a lot of, it's almost like politics where people like just follow the people they agree with and then kind of try to ignore everybody else and don't want to talk about it because it's, you're not supposed to bring up politics and religion or apparently diets anymore. Yeah. I don't know. Now I'm kind of diet agnostic to a degree because my main focus on my website and my podcast is fasting. And I do talk about nutrition too, but with fasting being the central focus, definitely, I feel that people can get health benefits from fasting regardless of how they eat, but it's better to eat more nutritious food, obviously. But my question for you, it seems like maybe with your experience, you're somewhat in a position to answer this question, which is, why do you think diets or different ways of eating are so dogmatic? Why do people feel so strongly or have almost like a religious kind of tint to it?
I've always wanted to know this, and I understand that it exists. And I mean, I think it's very personal to people. People create an identity around it, maybe because it's something they have to do every day. It's part of society, right? It's like there's so many things that are, people can not care about, right? It's just part of the fabric of society. But food is one of the most things people do care about and do associate with their identity. And I think it's because we have to do it every day, and every culture has their own way of eating, and people get along and form tribes around the way they eat, right? Because it's so pervasive in society, it has to happen every day. It is this cultural thing. It is this experience. So if you think about, what like you making friend groups or even think about like tribal, things of the past, it's like we got together around food, and there's not that many things that we still do in the modern day that are really, really tribal like that. Like people can go to work. So yes, they make friends at work because they're around them all day. Or you can make friends at a CrossFit class because then that's a little bit of a tribal activity. You get to, actually, it's funny because it's always about the human activities that you do, right? The ancient human activities like movement and exercise that people become tribal around. And food happens every day, right? It's not like you have to exercise every day or you do certain other things every day, but food always happens. And yeah, people just wrap their identity in it. And you can see that with the vegan crowd. And I like that you pointed out the carnivore or keto crowd too. It's like they become very zealous about that as well. Because also I think it's they found what works for them, and then they think that they're right? And everyone wants to be right and have all the answers or have secret knowledge. Maybe this is another ancient human thing too. It's like I have the secret knowledge that you don't have. And everyone thinks that they have that with their way of eating because it worked for them. And I think that is another one of these like cognitive biases or logical fallacies. There's different logical fallacies out there. And I think maybe I should look up what this one is. But I think there is one based around what works for you, especially around food, and then you thinking that should be what everyone does and should do. Or what worked for you in the beginning is something that should be a diet forever, which is another thing. Even with the crowd, like, yeah, I guess I'm in I put myself in the ancestral health crowd, which a lot of the diets might be more around paleo, keto, carnivore, and fasting components, because these are all components of ancestral diets. But so someone could do a certain diet, like say a carnivore diet. It works for them, and I think that's great. It's a good intervention. I don't think it's a long-term diet. I think it's a great intervention in the short term. So then they do it. They think it works it works. It's great. Yeah, they cut out so much junk. They eat less. They eat less often. They lose weight. They feel great. But then they think everyone needs to do it because of that, basically that success story for themselves. But then I think it's great. I don't think you have to do it forever though. right? There's this other thing about humans where it's like, if this is good now, then I need to do this forever. But you don't think beyond that, like, well, maybe you should start opening up your diet into more foods now that you've, had success on this carnivore diet, and then we can get more of a full balance of nutrients and something more sustainable long term, and that you don't have to be some, crazy person in society. And then same thing with vegan diets. It's like, I understand how a vegan diet can work in the short term because, again, you're cutting out a lot of foods. It's more of a fast or a cleanse, really. You're not getting the proper protein and nutrients that you need from a vegan diet. But I get it. People get all wrapped up in it. They get so zealous about it. They're like, everyone needs to do this. Like, I know a guy that cured his cancer from the vegan diet, and this person did. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Yes, you can do things. It's similar to fasting, actually. I know that you're into fasting. It's like, yeah, a vegan diet is kind of like fasting. You're not getting what you need. But you can't just say that this is what we should do forever, right? And it's really hard because people don't want to go into this nuance that, something that can be good for a month isn't good for a year or isn't good for 10 years. So, man, there's just so much around food, right? Food is it's just the most heated topic because, like I said, everyone has to do it every day and everyone has their own taste and there's so much culture around food. So it gets really messy.
Yeah. I think you made a lot of different good points there. So a lot of different directions we could go, but I like how you pointed out that it's very cultural and it's something we do all the time and we often do it with other people. And so it becomes part of just our daily way of life. And so it makes sense that, we're always thinking about food and, that we would get really kind of focused on a certain way of doing it if we find that, that particular way of doing it improved my health. So maybe it's going to help everybody else.